Well, hello everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Story to Screen podcast, the movie podcast where we review all different kinds of movies, new and old. I'm your host, Chris, and joining me tonight for our special double feature review for Big Hero 6 and Interstellar are Joshua Ling, Benjamin Curley, Ian Moffat, and Trey Balls.
Yay, last but not least.
Yes.
Oh.
Everyone is here. Avengers assembled. Oh, no. What was the term that we agreed to?
Group of people.
We never did agree.
Oh, okay. We never agreed.
The Fantastic Trey.
Now, Trey, come on. That's not fair.
That's what we agreed on, didn't we? I'm pretty sure. I remember.
I think I have it. I think I have something everyone can agree on. Possibly the greatest phrase ever, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Yeah, for super.
How about the Punishers? Let's just go that way. The Punishers, with black jackets and the skeleton T-shirts, the skull T-shirts.
As long as I can be called Spike.
Okay. And you can have the spiky leather bracelets and all that stuff, or
I can be like Spike from Buffy.
Oh, okay, yeah, there you go.
There you go. You just have to adopt a English accent and become a vampire.
And then call someone a magnificent poof.
And Ben, you can have the spiky hair that makes you look like a porcupine. You can do that.
Yeah, I could probably do that. I don't know. My hair might rebel, though.
Trey, what would your look be like?
I don't know.
He's the boring one.
I'd wear a T-shirt and maybe some jeans.
See, told you.
He'll be the odd man out of the four of us. You know, we'll be the ones with the big guns and the big muscles and all that stuff, and he'll be the one on the far right. You know, kind of like carrying our drinks and all that stuff, our Gatorade and all that.
Yeah, the brains behind the operation.
Exactly.
There you go.
That I control everyone, really. I'm the evil mastermind in the end.
Okay.
Just my puppets.
You don't control me, sunshine.
Thank you, everybody, for coming on to the show tonight. This is just a milestone for us after bringing all of us together for this one big episode. Well, it's going to be two separate episodes because we're going to be reviewing Big Hero 6 and the new Christopher Nolan movie, Interstellar. I'm really excited about tonight and seeing how this all turns out. So anyway, let's go ahead and start with weekly segments. Let's go ahead and start with our first little movie news here. Last week, I think it was Thursday night, Pixar Animation Studios came out and said they're doing a Toy Story 4, and John Lasseter, the director of the first two, is coming back with a 2017 release date. Guys, how are your feelings about a Toy Story 4? Are you excited, or are you?
I'm with Benjamin. I have mixed feelings.
What was that, Trey?
I guess the last movie was okay, but I don't know. It's like, how many are you gonna have? Toy Story 5, 6, 7, 8, Toy Story Reboot 1.
The remake,
the gritty reboot.
Yeah, it'll be like the Star Wars, the one that they released where they upgraded all the graphics and all the special effects and then re-released them. Yeah,
Right. Not first.
Trey, I got a suggestion for you. Toy Story Days of Future Past. There you go. That's what's.
Well, they kind of already have done that when you think about it, Chris.
Yeah.
We have Bonnie now, so it's not the same Toy Story universe we're thinking about. There's all these new toys, and yes, we have some of the old ones, but quite honestly, to me, it's more so, and I don't hate the idea. I'm just kind of like, oh, whatever. Yes, the last one ended amazingly, but so did the Star Wars trilogy. The original trilogy, and yet we're getting episode 7, and I'm actually excited for episode 7 because while we may have some characters and things that may return, it's largely a new story, a new tale, and as long as they do that, I'm okay with it. If we get something like Monsters University, no thank you.
Oh, come on. It wasn't that bad.
That was pretty good.
Yeah,
I sort of like that.
Okay, but when you could have had grown-up Boo, who vaguely recognizes this giant monster in her room, and she's like, "What are you doing here? What are you?" And she has this vague recollection. There's a lot of cool, like, psychological stuff you can go into. Instead, Mike and Sully go to college. The end.
Yeah. I'm not saying
Cash that
Monsters
check.
University, so I have... I've not-
Monsters, retirement, retirement home.
That would have been more entertaining for me.
This is a joke. I mean, or is it going to be called Toy Story Brokeback Toy Chest, something like that?
Nah, I don't think so. No,
I really hope not.
just no.
I wish that Pixar would just, do what they do best and come up with original stuff and stop trying to do the Disney thing.
Yeah, the thing that I'm more sad is that they haven't announced anything else for Incredibles 2, and they announced that movie about a year.
That is what needs to be made.
Yeah,
Take your time on Incredibles 2. Take your time. I just want my good superhero story. Come on now. Get some of the Marvel people involved.
And the one thing I just want to hear from them next is that Jeff Goldblum is the villain in that movie.
Ooh.
They'll have Benedict Cumberbatch or whatever his name is. It.
He's been cast.
They've got to.
They have to, and then they have Liam Neeson, and then you got to have Morgan Freeman.
Oh, Morgan Freeman.
It's not a movie. It's not a movie unless you get them.
No. You put that many people in there, and the screen will just explode. You can't do that.
That's Expendables 5.
Now,
that's Expendables 5.
Morgan
right
Freeman's
No,
entire
that's
reaction.
Incredibles
Hold on. Morgan Freeman's entire reaction to that idea. That idea is just the worst. Lego Movie, remember?
Yeah.
Come on.
That sounded more like Michael Caine than Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman.
Okay, they just announced the title for Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I like this title, actually, because it sounds like it's almost like a coming back to formality, I guess. It kind of feels like a perfect title for a movie that's going to be continuing the original trilogy in a fresh way.
I think the thing that I get most out of it, that the internet just keeps going off of, is how literal everyone's taking the title to try and figure out the story. I've heard some people say that this is going to be like Neil Gaiman's Doctor Who episode where the TARDIS comes to life, and it's going to be like the Force becomes sentient somehow. And I'm like not sentient, but like corporeal. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
It's just, come on, people, stop taking everything so literally. I mean, Empire Strikes Back. I mean, they did, but was it really about the Empire striking back?
In a way, it was. I mean, look at Revenge of the Sith. I mean, I would probably say that's a little more of an obscure title, because what are they getting revenge
Okay, fine.
on?
The Phantom Menace. What is that even about? Was there a ghost?
Yeah.
I didn't even see a ghost. Was there a ghost?
And was he menacing?
Jar Jar, that's the menace in there.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, that's the menace in there.
It's better than the Battle of the Five Armies.
This is true.
The Force Awakens for the 7th time. It's like, okay, that's a mouthful.
Well, anyway, guys, let's go ahead and jump into our reviews as we divide ourselves and go into our separate corners.
Divide and conquer.
Yes.
The Avengers, divide.
Yes.
In the words of Linguini from Ratatouille, let's do this thing!
Let's do it! So anyway, let's go ahead and just go into our reviews of Big Hero 6 and Interstellar.
Alright, let me get this straight. A man in a kabuki mask attacked you with an army of miniature flying robots.
Microbots? Baymax, tell him.
Yes, officer.
Microbots?
Yeah, he was controlling them telepathically with a neurocranial transmitter. Come on!
I am not fast.
Yeah, no kidding! Go, 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 go!
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Story to Scream podcast for Big Hero 6. I'm your host for this one, Joshua Ling, and with me tonight is Benjamin Curley.
What's up?
Have you ever considered growing a mustache to make your name more literal?
You know, I wish. It's something about my genes won't let me grow a proper mustache yet, so I'm waiting. Maybe by the time I get to 24, it'll, then I can rock the full goatee and everything.
I didn't realize you're younger than me. You were telling me just before we got on here that you had an interesting theater experience. Mind telling us about that as I put my hands right below my chin in utter anticipation?
Well, I've never had a very bad theater experience in the nice theater. I've had multiple bad dollar theater experiences.
Ooh, yes.
But this one, I anticipated it being a bunch of children and parents. What I didn't anticipate was Grandma and Grandpa bringing their, little ones to the theater and them talking through the movie. I would have expected it from kids, but I didn't expect the older lady to be just chattering her way at full volume through the movie. I mean, it was about the movie, but it was still slightly distracting.
So she was expositing the movie for the younger folk.
Yeah, a little bit more like the laugh and then reiterate in words what just happened and why it was funny.
Ooh, even better. That's almost as good as the ones who just make small talk with the characters. It's like it's kind of what I do with you guys when we're on, and someone will say something, and I'll be like, "Yeah, you do." And those are the worst. But thankfully, you didn't have them. I had a very good movie experience. One of the first times in a long time I was able to go out with all of my siblings. We went to a theater nearby, but before we did, right after work, I took them all to CC's Pizza, all you can eat. The experience was fantastic. There were a lot of kids and a lot of families, but most of them were pretty quiet throughout the whole thing. And honestly, when they did talk, it honestly added a little bit to the movie, because the only times they talked were during the really, really sad portions and things where you could hear the heartbreak in their voices. And that honestly added to the movie for me. But, I guess to start out, giving general thoughts, before we dive into the plot, one of the biggest things I took away from this movie is, we had several movies this year that just made me feel like a kid. The two that came previously were the Lego Movie and Guardians of the Galaxy. And the Lego Movie is definitely much more of a kid movie, though it didn't feel particularly nostalgic in any sense to me. It felt more like this felt like being a kid now, as opposed to back in the 90s when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind that. It was still really, really cool. Guardians of the Galaxy, it felt like you were just for the first time staying up late, at 11 years old, something like that, and your parents let you watch a movie with a bunch of swearing and things in it for the first time, and they try and bleep out some of it, with the mute button. And that's what Guardians of the Galaxy felt like to me. But for some reason, and I don't think it captured 90s per se, like I was saying earlier, but I think Big Hero 6 captured what it's like to feel like a little boy in any time and any place with Big Hero 6. I felt like a little boy watching this, geeking out over all the cool stuff and forgetting, as we get into some of the more negative things, but that's what a good movie does, makes you forget the negative things. And so that's my general thoughts. If you want to go ahead and give yours, Benjamin.
I walked away from it and thought, man, this is a movie that I can confidently buy and years later just set a kid of any age in front of it and just hit play and not worry about what's in it at all. And not worry about them taking away bad phrases or even a bad worldview. It was very, very clean and morally sound. Surprisingly, it didn't really try to have any particular message like a lot of films these days do. It was, it was just strong morals. So
definitely. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the plot. We can talk about some of the other things that come to mind as we go along, but this story starts off in San Francisco. Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm not too fond of in the movie, the name of the place. It just doesn't roll off your tongue at all.
Yeah, I saw the sign. It's like, wait, what? Which one is this? Are we in Asia and it's been renamed, or are we in the West Coast and it's been named?
Well, the other thing is, like, why, the only thing that really, like, made it seem like San Francisco to me was the trolleys, whatever you want to call them,
Yes.
Other than that, this felt like Tokyo. And why couldn't it have been Tokyo and everyone just spoke English? We've had movies like that before. And I mean, all the names and things that we actually heard except for, probably the villain. And I guess you could say Cass could be, not Asian. But most of the names felt pretty Asian, especially, our hero Hamada, which I actually like that name. I think it was a good choice.
Yeah, I agree.
And obviously it's Hiro, and it is a real name, and it doesn't mean what it means in our language, but it's still a really good choice in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You want to introduce the bot fights?
Well, okay. So we slowly work our way into a dark alley, seeing some of this formidable underground. Formidable? No, that's not the word I'm looking for.
Dark underbelly of society.
Exactly.
And I geeked out because I was a huge fan of Robot Wars and BattleBots. Just saying.
Okay, yeah. So that was an expensive hobby, so I never got into that sort of thing growing up.
I watched it more than I did anything with it, but I did buy a controller and some parts and stuff, and just never put it together.
Yeah.
As the robots are fighting, we see that there's betting going on all over the place, and it's very dark and seedy, and you can definitely tell that this is not a place that you want to be. A man named Yama, a giant man, kind of reminded me of a Punch-Out character. Yeah, it's from the Punch-Out video games.
Yeah.
And he says, "Who is next to step up and face Yama?" And he's won his prize. He's got a fistful of cash, and he's wearing a track suit, which is kind of funny. Then a little boy steps up, and we recognize him, of course, from all the trailers and things as our hero Hamada. He steps forward, and he has a very pathetic looking little robot-ish thing. And, he says, "Can I fight, sir? Can I have some more, sir?" And,
arms for the poor.
Pretty much. And, Yama laughs and is like, "You have to pay." And so he says, "Here, is this enough?" And he hands him a handful of cash, and he's like, "Sure, fine, I'll take your money, whatever." And,
that was a funny scene. It's like, is this enough?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
yeah, okay. And,
oh, well, that makes everything.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so, any which way, they fight, and it turns out this robot is more than meets the eye. The hero's robot is, in fact, more than meets the eye. It's not quite a transformer, but it becomes a rope-ish kind of thing that dismantles Yama's robot, and, that's obvious. It's actually the second time that he fights. He fakes it out the first time and wins back all his money, but, and then we see Hero's hero, a man named, was it Callahan?
Yes. Robert Callahan.
Yes, I believe so. And he's just amazed. This is one of the forefathers of modern robotry, something like that. Now, one of the things before we continue that I've really, really liked that they've established up to this point is the fact that Tadashi has been given a lot of screen time. You've really started to identify with and like Tadashi, and, it takes time for any character to be liked. Something that a lot of films don't take advantage of and don't realize. Sometimes you'll have characters that will be in there for a little while and we're supposed to think they're the greatest thing in the world just because people tell us that. They've really spent a lot of time showing us that Tadashi is a loving, caring brother, which makes it all the worse when things happen further in the story.
Oh yeah.
There's a science fair, and Hiro comes up with this great project, and if he takes care of it, he could get his way into the college if he does a good job. And so Tadashi and he and his friends work on it for a while, and once they finally get it, they show it off, and it wows everybody. They're called microbots. These little tiny pin-sized robots that can form together, and they basically work like Thor's hammer, how they, fly across the room and connect to each other and all that kind of stuff. And you can use a neural mind link to actually use these things to build, to move, to stretch, they create giant waves of metal. And it's really interesting. One of the things that I was thinking during that whole sequence is it was spectacular animation. I was blown away by can you imagine how long that would have taken to render just for the sheer amount of objects?
Oh, I know. And I'm just sitting there thinking, wow, the mathematics that they had to put into the animating to get it to form those complex shapes and everything else.
Yes, definitely. Very, very interesting, design on those microbots. They're about to walk home, Tadashi and Hiro, when all of a sudden, kaboom! The entire place catches on fire, and just like that, Tadashi is gone. And he doesn't come back. That was pretty intense for a kid's movie.
Mm-hmm. It was. I mean, ever since the trailers, that wasn't a surprise. I knew that was coming, but It was a pretty abrupt coming.
Yes. I think they really captured how quick someone can just die immediately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And how sudden, when you can capture the suddenness of something like that, I think you sympathize with the person who's lost someone a lot more. I think that's one of the, actually one of the drawbacks to Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. I always felt like they drew out every single death so much that it ceased to be sympathetic.
Yeah, you never really cried over anyone dying because it was a very dramatic death.
Yes, yeah. And I really, really feel like sudden deaths are something that's starting to be used more in our stories, and I think it's an interesting choice. All of this is in a sense, kind of the setup to the entire story. Tadashi's death and Callahan's death. Both are mourned. They go through a period where Hiro doesn't know if he wants to go to college. He doesn't want to bring back memories and whatnot. And, Benjamin, do you have any specific thoughts that have come to your mind about anything in this film?
Yeah, I think one thing that I walked away, and it was bugging me for quite a while. Just something didn't sit right. And that was all through the movie. And I don't know if this is the fault of the people next to me talking, or from me not paying attention, or a story problem. But I kept trying to name the villain, and I'm usually very good and accurate about that, and say, okay, that's our villain. Boom. But throughout the film, it constantly baffled me. Okay, where's our villain? He's not it now. And honestly, I did not expect Callahan to be the villain. It surprised me, and I think honestly that hurt the film a little bit, because there was no setup to it. There was no.
The setup came later.
Clearly defined motivation.
Yeah.
I think the motivation they gave Callahan was, I don't think it was sound.
Now, here's my question about that, because my sibling said something similar. I feel like that what they gave him was good, but it was too late in the film.
Exactly.
There was a little bit of
that may be a proper motivation, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's motivation enough, because I don't feel convinced. I don't feel angry about it.
For those of you who are,
you should just grow up.
Yeah, for those of you who are not on the same page, years ago, the seemingly evil man named, was it Cray? Was that his?
Cray.
Alistair Cray. By the way, anyone who's named Alistair, unless you're in real life, you're evil. Just saying.
Yeah.
But so Alistair Cray, who was trying to buy Hiro's microbots in the beginning, he actually had created the not Stargate which was actually it was actually a portal for transportation, for transporting one thing from one end to another. He basically created a portal, and so he was sending objects through, but had not sent a living person through, and they were about to test that for the military, and they were testing.
Always the military, isn't it?
Yes, the military, because they're the people who. By the way, the general looked like General Hammond from Stargate. Just saying. Any which way, and the one other really similarity that I'll point out that I was kind of like, come on, guys, really, was the Red Sparrow logo was Mockingjay. I mean, come on, people.
Oh, I saw that. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. So any which way, but they send this woman through, and it turns out that is Callahan's daughter. But we only find out about this about, I'd say, 2/3 of the way through the movie.
Yeah, last 20 minutes of the film.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the last 20 minutes. It might be, but it felt like, beginning of the last act. It was strange. We did get a little bit of Callahan disliking Cray at the beginning, and we can put that together. See, that was the thing that kind of sewed it up for me. While it happened really late in the film, I think if they had done a little bit better with the editing of, Hero putting the pieces together.
Yeah.
Something like that, where it's like, there were the breadcrumbs all along. You guys just didn't pick up on it.
Well, exactly, but that's the thing. They didn't.
Yeah,
they didn't have any breadcrumbs.
Well, there was one. There was one with him disliking Cray.
Yeah, but I mean, the first thing. Oh, okay, whatever. They got some backstory together. So and so, Cray did something unethical. But guys do unethical things all the time, and they don't have to work together. It's just it could be a presupposed viewpoint or a judgment on somebody.
But
it doesn't have to mean anything.
Right, but isn't that what a red herring is supposed to do? Isn't that what a red herring is supposed to do? Is make you feel like it's something that totally doesn't matter? Like it's. You kind of see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't buy for a second that Alistair was the bad guy.
No, they were making it way too obvious. Yeah.
Too obvious. There's no way he's the bad guy.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that they thought Tadashi was going to be the villain, and I think that would have been way worse.
See, that was my first call, honestly.
Yeah,
when I saw the trailer, it's like, yeah, it's his brother. His brother's the bad guy.
Right. And I think that's a way a lot of films would have gone with it.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, in this one, I kept saying, like, a bunch of people were still saying, like, my brothers and stuff to me, Tadashi's the villain, Tadashi's the villain. I'm like, I don't think he is, because they really set up nothing for that. And I don't think Disney would just do that for shock value and not give an any kind of setup. Because they really didn't do any kind of setup for that. And had they done that, it really would have been like there was no death, there was no loss in this movie. And the fact that he stayed dead, like, Disney's pretty good about that for the most part, keeping characters dead.
They are. Yeah, and we see the grieving process and everything. They deal with the real life aspect of it. Mm-hmm.
When you really think about it in this movie, we got two really, really huge sacrificial moments. That's one of the things that really stood out to me as far as the ethics goes. We have Tadashi selflessly rushing into a burning building to try and help people, only to have his life stolen. And then we have Baymax at the end of the film stuck in a floating vacuum of space, and the only way to save Hero is to basically kill himself. He has to shoot his own fist thing to launch Hero back to safety. And to do that means that he can't get to safety.
And in both cases, it's like they didn't even stop to think, well, maybe I shouldn't. I mean, there was no hesitation.
None.
It's like, this is what has to be done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The only hesitation was on Hero's part, of course, which is understandable. One of the other things I'll point out is I will never do the fist bump the same way again. So good. We were doing that all this weekend. It's just great.
My aunt asks, we were at school all day. Got it.
We jumped out a window.
No, quiet.
Shh, we jumped out a window.
You can't say things like that around Ed Gas.
Why don't we talk about the real star of this movie, Baymax? Have we had quite as heartwarming a robot since, I don't know, Johnny 5?
Pretty much. I mean, there were moments that I'm thinking, wow, that sounds and acts like C-3PO. Just the kind of oblivious state. But a lot more than that. Because C-3PO, he was kind of just this annoying person. You didn't really love him.
Right, and you felt like
Max is like C-3PO and R2-D2 combined.
I could kind of see that, but to me, I think the thing that sets him apart from both C-3PO and R2-D2 is the fact that C-3PO and R2-D2 are way more human than Baymax was. Baymax, while he definitely understood things, he understood things on a robot's level. You could absolutely buy through the entire movie his level of artificial intelligence. There was never this point where he was something more. Something, that was not believable as a robot. And that's one of the things that I thought was really creative in the movie, is the fact that everything he said you could buy coming from a computer program that a person created.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was one of the most interesting things about Baymax for me. And like I said, functionally retarded is probably the best term I can come up with, because there are, some moments and things where you just, I like when Hero's pulling him away and getting him to run, and he says, "I am not fast."
Yeah.
And that a robot, properly programmed would absolutely say that,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, it reminds me of the human side that they try to put into the smartphones. The clever wit. Well, that was way a little bit more beyond the clever wit of the smartphones. Smartphones, they try to be sarcastic.
Yes.
But no, Baymax is like painfully honest.
Yes. Yes. And I think a lot of that comes from Tadashi's personality when you really think about it.
Yeah.
Tadashi wants so bad to help people with Baymax. And that comes through in how bad Baymax wants to help people.
It's like the best of his brother reflected.
Yeah, absolutely. And you absolutely see that in the way Baymax treats Hero and all these other sorts of, and everyone else. He has this, everything else that Tadashi is stripped away. The only part that he put into Baymax is the wanting to help people. And so that's all that's there in Baymax. And it's really, really, I think, a lot of people point to her. A lot of people point to that as like one of the best like modern fictional takes on artificial intelligence. And I'd say this is possibly the most accurate representation of what humanity there can actually be in an artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I agree.
And the level of humanity was based solely on its creator. There was nothing inherent in Baymax himself that made him something more like Johnny 5, Lightning Bolt Strike. There was none of that, and I felt that was incredibly refreshing and believable.
You have fallen.
You think?
Ow. On a scale of 1
Ow.
On a scale On a scale
No.
On a scale of 1 to 10 On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your pain?
0.
It is all right to cry.
No.
Crying is a natural response to pain.
I'm not crying.
I will scan you for injuries.
Don't scan me.
Scan complete.
Unbelievable.
You have sustained no injuries. However, your hormone and neurotransmitter levels indicate that you are experiencing mood swings, common in adolescence.
Moving on to Disney, Marvel, the future, etc. One of the things that I found interesting, I don't know if you got these trailers, and I know for a fact that, obviously the films that advertise on, Disney's films and stuff like that. That's more theater by theater. It's not so much, they pay the theater company. They don't pay Disney directly or whatever, but, there were a lot, and I mean a lot, of things both in the movie and in the trailers that felt particularly evangelical. And I'm not saying biblical, I'm saying evangelical. I'm saying that this was a film that felt, in my theater at the very least, like it was marketing to Christian families. The trailers that I saw, I was not impressed with. The evangelical quote-unquote trailers, I was not impressed with. The first one was for Hillsong, and their big documentary on their tour and stuff like this or whatever, their church or something. Did you get that trailer or no?
I did get that trailer. We actually, we didn't really walk in late, but we didn't actually have that many trailers, surprisingly.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot either.
Yeah, I did see that one.
Yeah, and the thing with that one was, they were very much saying, this isn't about us, it's about God. I'm like, then why do you have a trailer and a documentary?
It's like, the whole purpose of that particular storytelling medium is about you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so it felt very, silly in that regard. And then the other one that I got, I cannot remember the name off the top of my head, and maybe you could look this up for me. In this trailer, this boy is constantly being told while his father's out at war that if he really wants something and has enough faith, then he'll get it. And he starts, taking that and putting it into his own life in really kind of ridiculous areas where it becomes even dangerous. And his brother one day, he's talking to his brother and he says, you can have faith to move mountains, quoting the Bible and stuff like that. And the boy his brother takes him out and says, look, there's a mountain right there, move it. And the boy puts his arms out like he's doing some kind of razzmatazz on it. And there's an earthquake. And these people start talking about this miracle, and there's a Catholic nun talking about miracles and stuff, and it's just,
oh boy.
Yeah, I was just like, no, thank you. But those two trailers combined with no trailers that I felt, even close to uncomfortable with, except for, personal reasons with Paddington Bear. Did you get that one?
I did get that one.
Yeah. Slapsticky. No, thank you. But, that combined with all the sacrificial moments in Big Hero 6. Obviously there was a tiny bit of crude humor and things with Fred, but I think it could have been way worse.
We did get the trailer for, the Penguins of Madagascar.
Yeah, we got that one. We got that one too.
And fast. That's up there.
Yeah, that's true. We got that one as well, but I've seen that one on TV, so it kind of didn't register. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But any which way, otherwise, this really just felt packaged. The whole experience that I had felt packaged like there's a mandate, and I think it, even in some of the recent Marvel, obviously Guardians of the Galaxy was a lot further than a lot of their other things, but I think there might be, at least in Disney Animation Studios, a little bit of a mandate coming down from higher up about keeping it clean and realizing that they don't have to do certain things with their medium that other companies are doing, because they're Disney and they can tell a good story the right way.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted your opinion on that and see if you kind of see the same thing as the whole experience being packaged more as a family and even Christian sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually, I know why. Are you familiar with MovieGuide.org and Ted Baer?
I am indeed.
Okay. He is actually, he knows personally Walt Disney Studio heads and many other people in the industry, and he's, they come to him for guidance in how to create Christian or Christian friendly content, and they're constantly asking because he's convinced them after many years. He's convinced a lot of Hollywood that there is a huge market for Christian films. I mean, and not Christian as in, you know, tell the Jesus story sort of thing, but
Christian worldview.
Christian worldview, exactly. And they're finally coming to the realization that there's an untapped market there, and obviously some people are going to the extreme, and we're getting those really stupid evangelical films because.
Yeah.
But on the other end, we do have stuff like the Marvel films that are just coming out with really superb storytelling and a noticeable lack of foul content, which is so refreshing and nice. I hope they keep going that direction.
Right. I was going to say, even Guardians of the Galaxy with all of its foul content and things, I don't feel like it ever crossed the line of a Back to the Future. Or, you know...
it really didn't. I mean, it was more than the other Marvel films, but it was not that bad.
Yeah, it did not have... If you actually, like, sat there and counted curse words and did, you know, all this kind of stuff, it may have had more curse words than, say, Back to the Future. But when it comes to actual content, I'd put it on par or even a little bit milder in sexual and crude content than Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Which, to this day, families watch all the time, whether they're, you know, censoring it or not.
Yeah.
And so, even with one that went a little further, I think they're keeping really close reins on that kind of stuff. And I do think it's something that, even if they're just doing it for marketing purposes, I think the psychological effect on the filmmakers themselves to consciously be careful of what they do, but realize that they're not handcuffed at the same time. That's something that some people will latch on to and realize they're not handcuffed, and other people will go, "Oh, I'm going to be totally worse and find whatever studio I can to take my content."
Well, yeah, it depends on who's in charge.
Right.
I mean, as long as the studio's in charge, the studios will continue to do whatever it takes to get them money.
Yes.
That's what they smell and breathe. It's money. And if the money's not there, then they won't be there. Now, the directors themselves, they have their own agendas. They have their personal agendas that they're trying to push. And they have to be reined in by the studios.
Yes. Well,
that's where television is actually pushing the limits further and further, because the studio heads in television aren't being slapped like they need to be.
It's true. I think one of the things that it's going to have an effect on, though, is what I'm saying is it's going to weed out a lot of the extreme agenda directors in favor of more, you know, whether they're actually Christian or not, more Christian-oriented worldview artists. And I think that's something that, you know, the more excellent artists who realize that they are not handcuffed, but actually working within a beautiful and amazing system of things you can and can't do. The more people who realize the beauty of that and the simplicity and also complexity of working within those boundaries. Like I said, I think it'll weed out the not so great directors and make room for a lot of the better directors.
Once again, a really good film. I feel like I could have enjoyed it a lot more if I hadn't been distracted by the audience around me.
Yeah.
This is actually a film that I think I really am seriously going to go back and see. I almost never go back to theater to see a movie, but this one I think it's really worth me going back to get the proper emotional experience that the film is asking from me.
Yeah.
One of my favorite animated films, probably in the top 5, is Astro Boy.
Yeah.
And that was similar setting. And that one, that one brought tears to my eyes. Well, this one, I felt like it could have if I had been engaged, and I want to give it that chance to engage me again.
Definitely. I'd say it's definitely in my top 10 animated Disney movies from Disney, specifically Disney Animation Studios, the feature films and all that. I don't know about top 5. I can't really say for sure yet, but because it's really hard comparing something like this to Frozen. It's a boy movie. It's not a girl movie. You know
exactly. It's almost not even in the same category.
It's very, very different. But it's still extremely strong. The emotional highs and lows of this movie are fantastic. It's not afraid to do really hard things and ask really hard things of even young viewers. And I give it an extremely strong recommend.
On top of the world, on top of it all, trying to feel invincible. Yeah, dying on top of the world. I remember the nights, caught up and dreaming my goodbyes, watching the door for anything more than ordinary life. I remember the days.
Alright, well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up here, guys. Hopefully the Interstellar review went just as well. I'm sure with Trey there was a lot of arguing going on, some slapping and punching and shedding of tears and all that kind of stuff. But
good thing they're just not in person, and then there really would be.
Can't we all just get along and watch Disney? I mean, come on, guys, Anyway, I suppose that'll do it for us. For Benjamin Curley, say your name.
This is Benjamin Curley.
And me, Joshua Ling. I bid you good night and good hunting. Ow!